This week on the Pleasure Monkey podcast.
We're hanging out with Liv Langdon on her couch talking about food, life, and how to create the best. Fuck, I fucking hate doing these.
This should be it.
This is it now. If you don't want to suck in the kitchen and you don't want to suck at life, you're listening to the right podcast.
How about love the life you're living?
You just want your name to be in the shit.
Live.
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 This
This
podcast is good and you're going to like it, so stay tuned. But before we jump into the show, we're going to give a little love to our sponsor, Onnit.com. And with me today, as you just heard in the intro, is Liv Langdon, the food and nutrition manager. Liv, what's going on over at Onnit these days?
There are lots of things going on at Onnit. I would first start off, yes, per usual. If you go to the Academy, that's where our blog is, and there are some fantastic articles on there about fitness, sleeping, mindset, food, recipes.
They've been putting out some great stuff lately on the Academy.
Yeah. Most recently, they have a really awesome rebuttal to the What the Health documentary that my coworkers, Vince and Sean, wrote. And it's debunking some of the bullshit claims that were made in the documentary and gives you a full perspective on what is the good science versus the bad science.
And just to give some context on those guys so that you know that they know what they're talking about, Sean has been in the strength and fitness nutrition world for a long time, and Vince is actually a PhD.
Yeah, he has his
So these
PhD.
guys are no joke, and they came with some hard science. It was really cool talking to those guys through that entire process. It's been awesome.
Yeah, it's been shared hundreds of times already. Like, it's a really well written piece, and they spent a lot of time on it, and I'm really proud of them. So I would definitely go and read that article.
And something you've been spending a lot of time on is your recipes over at onnit.com/recipes.
That is right.
What's going on over there?
Well, we have everything from matcha chai lattes to paleo burrito bowls to I just made a really good burger that has a secret ingredient, cauliflower, in it with some shiitake bacon on top. And I must say it was pretty damn delicious.
Yeah, that burger was bomb. So half turkey burger, half cauliflower. Super original recipe. You will not find this recipe anywhere else on the internet. It's been confirmed.
I did. I actually looked it up and I was like, has anyone thought of this before? And no one has thought about it before.
Better go check it out at onnit.com/recipes. And then, of course, what Onnit's known for, supplements. What is your favorite Onnit supplement, babe?
I would say my favorite Onnit supplement is Shroom Tech Sport. Honestly, I'm not a big runner, and when I take that before a run, I notice a substantial difference. I am not out of breath. I mean, I'm still out of breath, but not as much out of breath. I can run a lot longer, and I feel great after the run. And if I'm doing any type of high intensity interval training, I recover a lot quicker. So rather than needing a breather for 2 minutes, like, I'm ready to go in 30 seconds.
So you can jump into our homie Juan's barbell class and just crush that thing out. Thanks to our good friends, Shroom Tech Sport.
For real.
And even you don't take our word for it. There's just they just completed a double-blind placebo-controlled study. I can't really talk.
That was good enough.
Yeah.
Double-blind placebo-controlled study. Yeah, and the findings are out, and you can check that out also on onnit.com.
You know what else is really cool?
What?
You can go to onnit.com/monkey and get 10% off of Shroom Tech Sport.
Well, what we want.
Wow. I mean, I know a lot of people use Joe Rogan's code, and that's cool and stuff, but I feel like onnit.com/monkey is way cooler.
Way better.
I feel like if Joe Rogan had to use a discount code, he would probably use onnit.com/monkey.
Yeah.
Check it out, guys, and enjoy the show with Liv.
Bye.
Bye. The show's just starting. You
Okay.
can't say bye
Hi.
yet.
So I got into food. Let's see. I was probably around 7 or 8, and both of my parents are different religions. So on Sundays, they decided instead of going to church or an establishment like that we had to be together with the family on Sunday. And so on Sunday, my dad would cook brunch for the whole family. And that is kind of my first introduction to family time and food time put together. And I started to associate the two, and I thought it was really important and something that I wanted to pass on. And I also started cooking with my dad. So it was a bonding time for us. And then we used to make like the most bomb brunches ever. And it tasted good. So I was like, I want to learn how to do this. And he taught me how to poach an egg and make the perfect scrambled eggs. And we'd make brown sugar toast, and we'd make bacon and omelets. And then I started learning how to flip omelets, which I thought was so cool. And then I slowly took over family brunch. When I was about 10 or 11, I started cooking for everybody every Sunday.
So you were the chef every Sunday for your family? I
was. And there was 4 kids and my parents. And we would eat this massive amount of food, and I loved it. And so after that, I pretty much took that over until I left the house, until I went to college.
And then you just existed on ramen noodles and pizza pockets like everybody else?
Yeah, right. No, the sorority food, which was, I don't know if it was much better or anything. We had whole wheat bagels and peanut butter. And but no, and then I think it was at some point in high school, I would watch my mom at the gym, because she would take me to the gym when I was a little girl, and then I eventually became a member at the same gym, and I would watch her and be like, I want to be like my mom. She always took care of herself, and she always ate the right foods, and she would always pay attention to Nutrition Action. It was like this health magazine, and make sure that she bought high quality foods, even if she didn't really understand what she was buying. She would do it for us, and I thought that was, I think that she was a really good role model for me in that sense. So I kind of combined what I learned from my dad in the kitchen and what I learned from my mom on the nutrition side, and I started to blend those two things together in my own way.
In your own way? In
my own way. And then I tried every diet imaginable on the planet. Like, I was probably 12 years old doing the Atkins diet. Like, what is a 12-year-old doing the Atkins diet for? So stupid. But I was fascinated with the fact that you can change your body. And then I would do competitions with like family members and see, how long I could stay on the Atkins diet against like my sister or my dad or something like that. It became like a competition kind of thing. It was weird. So yeah, I did the Atkins diet, the South Beach diet, the cookie diet, which was weird. The cookie diet.
I'm not familiar with the cookie diet.
There are these like 6 formulated cookies that are extremely high in fiber, and I don't even know what else was in them. It was just fiber, basically. And they had different flavors, and you would eat 6 of those throughout the day, and then you had a small dinner. So basically you were severely restricting your calories, which is hence why you would lose weight. Like, duh. And yeah, I did that, which was retarded. And I started to realize that I, wanted to look a certain way, but I didn't want to hurt my body with food. And I knew that I needed to have a healthier relationship with food. So that was the start of my journey to finding a more healthy relationship with food.
So at what point did you realize that your relationship with food was unhealthy?
That would probably be, I think it really wasn't until, so at the end of college, I started to compete in fitness competitions. Mm-hmm. And in college, I kind of fell off track in terms of nutrition and health and taking care of yourself.
As most of us do.
Exactly, yeah. It's hard once you start to take care of yourself and you have to pay for your own groceries and no one's there to help you prepare anything and you're getting drunk half the time. I actually worked with the psychology department at Florida when I was there, and they were doing one of my girlfriends, she was doing her thesis on the 2 most influential periods in your life where eating habits are conditioned. And the first period in life is young childhood, because really what you eat depends on what your parents feed you for the most part. And so that becomes impressioned at a young age. And then the second most impressionable period in your life is young adulthood and college age. So when the first time that you live on your own and you make your own decisions for yourself and what you're going to feed your body. And once you pass those 2 phases in life, it becomes very, very difficult to repattern your mind to eat a certain way. So let's say you ate poorly growing up and then you continued that through college. After that, if it, you know, in your 40s, if it hit you and you're like, I gotta change my ways of eating, it becomes a lot more difficult to do that. So let's say, I guess it was after, at the end of college, my senior year, I decided I really wanted to change my habits. I didn't want to drink as much. I really wanted to just really get myself together and focus on what I wanted to be and who I wanted to portray myself as, what I wanted to accomplish in life, what I wanted to look like. I mean, all those things, like what kind of a woman do I want to be? It was really important for me to establish that because I was 22 and thought that this was the time. So I've always wanted to compete in fitness competitions. And so they're like bikini competitions and in, you know, the bodybuilding world, I guess you could say. And to me, that was my idea of health. And if I can accomplish that, then I win, you know, like then I can
literally win. You can literally win.
I can literally win.
Literally win at pretending to be healthy.
Exactly. Well, I didn't know it was pretending to be healthy at the time. Yeah. I thought that was healthy. The same women who are winning the competitions are the women who are on the covers of Women Health magazine and Oxygen magazine and all these magazines that I used to like hide under my bed and look at and be like, I want to look like her. You know, she looks fantastic.
You used to hide fitness magazine under your bed?
Well, I don't know if I had, I guess, yeah. Well, I did. I was a magazine hoarder. I'm not going to lie.
Okay.
I don't think I've ever told you that.
That's a confession, yeah.
Yeah, I did. I thought I just accumulated, I mean, I think at least I was probably close to 200 magazines. I used to hide under my bed.
Fun facts about Liv
I don't
Langdon.
know what I thought I was going to do with them, to be honest. I used to put them together and think that either I could resell them for more value or I just loved the idea of them. And I also scrapbooked when I was younger. Okay. So I used to cut things out and make like dream boards with them. Yeah. And then I used to, you know, also collect the women's magazines, which are the ones I wanted to look at. Like, I guess I didn't really think about how weird that is until right now.
It's super weird.
Yeah.
You were weird as fuck.
It is so strange.
Yeah.
Man. Okay. Well, I did it.
So you competed in bikini competitions, and that was your initial, let's say, kind of mission of health, where you were like, that was your idea of what healthy was, and you were going to pursue that, and you drove down that path. And you did really well. That was something that you excelled at in a way, correct?
Yeah, I guess. So I ended up competing twice, and I guess the standard of if you did well is if you qualify for a national level competition. Okay. And I just missed the mark on it. The second competition I did, I was fairly close. I think it was out of, there's categories, and I was like 6th place out of maybe 19 girls in my division, which is okay for your second competition. But my body type wasn't necessarily geared for what they were looking for. Yeah. I have some big old thick thighs. Yeah. Which I absolutely love. But at the time, thanks, babe. At the time, you know, it was, you're judged upon solely what you look like. And that was really difficult. One, for putting yourself in that position, like, you know, who wants to be judged solely for aesthetic reasons? And then also being told by the judges what you can't necessarily improve upon because that's what genetically you're given. Yeah. You know? And then in the midst of all of this, I had stopped my menstrual cycle because my body fat was about 10% body fat, which for a woman is
super low for a woman.
Yeah, so low.
I think like low for a woman is in the like 15 range, correct?
Yeah, professional bodybuilding women and physique women are definitely that or way below that. Yeah. Walking around healthy women. Exactly. Like an average woman, a healthy range of body fat should be between like 15 and 20% body fat for women. And women need to carry a little bit more fat because we need to, you know, hold a child. And so our hips are a little bit wider, and it's meant to, we need to be sturdy enough to basically hold a belly in front of us. Yeah. So when my menstrual cycle stopped, I started to think like this isn't necessarily good for me. And in the midst of this, My boyfriend at the time, his mom was a master herbalist. So she had a master's degree in herbology. She was an extremely smart woman. She cured herself of cervical cancer, and she had a wellness center where she would treat babies who are declared unable to thrive, and autistic children and cancer patients. And she just basically sat me down and said, what you're doing to your body is very harmful. And I know you, and then, her son also competed. What you guys are doing, you enjoy, but I have to tell you, in the long term, it's going to have detrimental consequences. And so I think that scared me. That pretty much kind of shipped me, that made me change my ways. And that was when I decided I was going to have, because at the time, psychologically, you become affected by every single thing you put into your mouth. So what I thought I was doing, I thought I was going to create a healthier relationship with food and change my life for the better. But I almost went down the opposite extreme and made it, and kind of took a turn for the worse.
Well, it seems like, from what I'm hearing, is when it comes to food or your relationship with your physical body, both of those things are really set up in a way, like you're almost setting yourself up for failure in that world.
Right. I mean, I think that anytime you're putting too much pressure on your body, which is extremely fleeting, number one, and number two, that's not sustainable, and number three, if your self-worth is completely ingrained in what you look like, who are you as a person? What are you trying to hide, I think, and what are you trying to hide from? Because if you rest completely on what you look like, it's very vain, I think, and you start to completely detach from what your true purpose and being is in life. And not to say that this happens to everyone who competes. I can't speak for anyone else but myself. But I did notice in myself that, I was very selfish in my decision making. You become obsessed with what you're putting into your body, obsessed with working out, obsessed with meal prepping, and you kind of sort of judge people who aren't as strict. It was a strange feeling. And then you look at yourself and you never reach a point, which I thought I would, when you look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, I did it. Like, this is it. I accomplished this goal and I look exactly the way I want to look. You never feel that way, ever. And I was shocked by it. I mean, I look back at pictures now and I look at myself now, I'm like, damn, I was seemingly emaciated from where I am now. But I never felt psychologically or physically comfortable with who I was, no matter what I look like in the mirror. And from that point until now, I look at how far I've come, and I don't want any person to feel that way about themselves.
Yeah. And it's funny because what you're talking about is you end up in a string of situations where you want to be right. You want the path that you've gone down to be the right path. This is anything that we do, right? So you make some decisions and you decide, I'm on this path to do this thing and I'm going to accomplish this thing. And you have confirmation bias on your decisions. So whenever you start to deviate and get further and further away from normal people that are in your life that aren't as strict about food, you make them wrong and make you right. Mm-hmm. And then that's also super energy expensive, right? Constantly food prepping, constantly stressing about what you put in your mouth. Did you go to the gym today? You're missing on your social aspect of your life, because most people don't spend 4 hours a day at the gym. Most people aren't super anal about food prepping on Sunday for half the day. And that's a fantastic way to distract yourself from what really fucking matters in your life, because it is so energy expensive. Not to mention whenever you are either cutting or gaining, right? Both of those things require a ton of time and a ton of effort. And when you're cutting, your brain's depleted. So you're like half of a human anyways.
Oh yeah. When I was about to compete, and I remember I was working for our WUFT news. It was at UF.
Yeah.
And I had like the 6 a.m. shift, and which I'm not a morning person, as you know. So I would go there, and I remember I would go to write, we did the morning news, and I would do the newscast, or I would write the story. And I remember writing the story and my mind would just go black. Like I couldn't think at all. Wow. And I was so nutrient deprived. I couldn't I couldn't even write a story. I mean, that was what I did. I was a journalism major. So that to me was like, this is totally not worth it, you know? And what you were saying is at the end of the day, what are you doing it for? You know, what is the point?
Yeah. Well, did you get a lot of external validation too in the way that you looked, even when you probably felt your worst, but that you were like, wow, you look great. Wow. Like, I wish I could be like you. Like, was any of that stuff pouring in from the outside?
Oh yeah, definitely. But it was almost, it doesn't, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what people say. It matters how you feel about yourself.
True. I know. But that probably kept you on that path a little bit longer as well.
Oh yeah.
Because then you have the people's kind of, you almost get respected for, it's the same thing with money's just a really similar thing where it's like, well, I can be self-serving and closed-minded because if I'm well respected in the business world because I make a lot of money, and that respect kind of masks the actual feelings about myself that I'm really compensating for. And that external validation, if we talk about social media, it's the same thing. You know, you end up getting appreciated for something that really behind the scenes is empty as fuck. Mm-hmm. But since we're geared up to appreciate certain things and we're conditioned to appreciate certain things, you get external validation for things that are not internally fulfilling. And that can be a really dangerous cycle to put yourself in.
Oh, yeah.
And I think outside of fitness, money, and everybody can have that thing, mm-hmm. you know, and that this gives you that external confirmation. And it's really easy to display the tip of the iceberg when really it's a complete mess on the back end. It's
a total slippery slope. And I think that a lot of people who get into the competition world, they do well, and good for them for achieving what they wanted to achieve and getting first place and then being nationally qualified and then potentially getting the covers of magazines. But I think people start to feel pigeonholed and that they need to stay in this persona. And number one, the way you look on stage is not what you look like in real life. It's completely unsustainable and not healthy for you. So I think I know some girls who did really well and they put on like 10, 15 pounds off season, which as you should. Mm-hmm. But I think then they become, embarrassed to like that they have to uphold what their Instagram looks like, which is stupid. But then it makes other people believe that they should look like that. And you can tell that they were unhappy or they were tired. I mean, I would look at them and some people have bags under their eyes or their skin wasn't very clear. And you can tell they were stressed out. And I think that some people become so stuck in their social media or their competition body that they can't actually be themselves. And they can't identify with anything else outside of what they look like and what they portray themselves to look like.
Well, you're caught up in a cycle at that point. And this goes for a lot of different people. It in the fitness world and out is when you actually are in the shape that people expect you to be in. So you've created an expectation based on how you present yourself as to what you're going to look like. Mm-hmm. But really, cognitively and physically, you feel like shit when you look that way. Mm-hmm. But that's how you have to look to meet the expectations. And then on the other side, whenever you gain 15 pounds off season, right, and then you feel fat, then you're ashamed of yourself to be around anybody. So you're losing on both sides. You just create a cycle of shame and guilt and incompleteness.
Totally. Oh my God, it's horrible. That's why anytime someone younger than me says that they want to compete, what is my advice, or can I help them with their diet? I want to shake them and be like, why? Why are you doing this? Or really at least think about it before you do. I'm all about setting personal goals and achieving them and going to way beyond your comfort zone. I'm all about that. But if it comes at the cost of your own health, I don't promote that anymore. And I'm glad that I lived through it to know that and be able to tell the story. But if I can give anyone a piece of advice, it would be to really, really evaluate what it is that you're looking for.
Wasn't that anything in the world that we are really glorify, or we glorify stress? Mm-hmm. If you work 16-hour days and you sleep like shit, like, oh, you must be hustling, you're on the grind. You get the Gary Vee, like, I don't take time to drink water. I don't sleep. Fuck sleep. And now he's like,
I know. I'm glad he's like coming back out now though, because he is all about that. Like, oh, you go to bed at whatever at 8 p.m. and then, wake up at 8 a.m. Like I'm up until 3 a.m. But he's now come out saying that like he's now putting his health as a focus in his life, and he hasn't ever done that, thank God, because I was listening to him and I'm like, yeah, but you're really promoting like this crazy, unrealistic and unhealthy lifestyle that without any sleep, without taking care of yourself, like eat, breathe, sleep, die, hustle,
Yeah.
I just think that
There's a place for hard work for sure, and I think sometimes you have to meet in the middle. Like I think he's so far off the Richter as far as the hustle mode that it gets people fired up a little bit. Just like The Rock is like, I don't give a fuck. I work out at 3 a.m. Not to mention that he's going to go get on like a private jet and sleep for 10 hours on the way to set.
Yeah, and I'm sure he has some help from other things.
I'm sure
too.
he does too. But it's like, but the thing about it is like it gets the people a little bit fired up, and I see that. But yeah, trying to completely mimic that lifestyle just puts you in the ground.
Yeah.
And it's got to meet in the middle and take everything with a grain of salt, especially when it comes from that perspective. But what I really want to talk about a little bit is something I'm fascinated with, and I talk about a lot on the show, is how we accumulate experience and then kind of transform that into expression. And to go back to your story about cooking with your dad and fitness with your mom, and then having that experience with your boyfriend's mom, and really kind of getting these 3 really pivotal points in your life where you were started to develop your passion, which is what you do now at Onnit, and that's through Onnit and your own personal branding, with showing people how to have a healthy relationship with food, and not only have a healthy relationship with food, but have fun creating different recipes and really kicking ass in the kitchen. Mm-hmm. So how does it feel to have come from and take these things that are really important in your life and these very pivotal moments and these lessons that you've learned and be able to communicate that on a big stage? Wow.
Well, it's quite fulfilling because I love what I do, and it really is. And people, I get a lot of questions from girls who are 21, 22, 23, and they ask how I got to where I am. And one, I don't think it's, the end all be all, like I have accomplished exactly what I want by any means, but I have formed a life that I wanted to live, I think, fortuitously, I guess. I just figured out. So in college, I was a business major. I was a marketing major for 3 years. And my last year of college, I actually got kicked out of the business school because I couldn't pass accounting. And I took it.
Really?
I know. I don't even know if I ever told you that.
No, that's funny.
Yeah, I did. Because I couldn't pass managerial accounting, and I kept taking it and dropping the class. And then, I just wasn't paying a lot of attention to it. And I didn't think it was a big deal. Like I figured I would take it my senior year and that was it. But when senior year came, my guidance counselor called me in and he said I was off track to graduate. And I said, yeah, I know, but I'm going to take managerial accounting. I'll pass. And then, I only have 5 more classes to graduate. And he goes, no, this is more serious than that. Like you can't be in the business school and you need to take managerial accounting. You need to pass it and then reapply into the business school.
Oh, yeah.
And I had 2 semesters left. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, I can just take the class now. And he goes, no, you can't. So basically I had to find a new major. And this is like during drop ad week. I think it was the last day of drop ad. I had to find a new major on campus that day. And I just walked around and I had no idea what I wanted to do. I was like, what the heck am I going to do? So I go to the liberal arts and science school where all the athletes were, all the football players were in that school. So I figured, okay, must be easy to get into. So I went there and the guidance counselor was awesome, but he said, you can't come in because you have to graduate in 4 years or under. That's our rule. So you have to find another major. I'm sorry. So I couldn't go there. And he told me, he goes, the journalism school, they're really nice there. They're kind of like hippies and they're lax.
Yeah, I feel that.
And so I was like, okay, cool. Let's do that. and I started college as a telecom major. I thought I wanted to be a reporter. So I knew I didn't want to be in the telecom school, but I figured, I could either be in advertisement, I can do PR, or I can do journalism. And I've always liked writing and journaling. So why don't I just try journalism? So I legitimately walked into journalism school and I looked at the guidance counselor, the dean of journalism, and I told him this whole story. And he was so cool and had all of, what do you hold when you go to the soccer games? They hold the scarves, like the soccer scarves up.
I have no
I
idea.
don't know. He had those from all around the country. I mean, all around the world. I'm sorry. And he was just this cool guy who had traveled the world and had such a cool story to tell. And he was, in 2 seconds, he was like, "Welcome to the journalism school." And I was like, yes, I'm going to be a journalist. I had no idea. Like, I was a marketing major for 3 years. I had no idea what was going on. So anyways, I don't even know how I went down. I think I had to come to this path to tell you where I am now, because
It's an important part of the story.
It was just so random. And, I always promote on my social media that you don't have to have it all figured out, because I definitely didn't. And I remember calling my dad, bawling, crying, and saying that I had to tell him that I got kicked out of the business school. Who likes to tell their dad that? That's horrible. So now I'm a journalism major. I'm 22 years old. I have to graduate. I took an extra semester to graduate, but I graduated in a year and a half. And reporting, which was a class, it's a weed out class in Florida. And it was so hard. I almost did not pass that class, but I did. And I got through it, and I learned to absolutely not only love writing, but loved sharing a story. And I learned proper grammar, which thank God, because people have terrible grammar in business emails. I'm learning as I get older. And so as I'm doing this, I think curveballs get thrown your way that I think test you and try to figure out what is it that really means something to you? And you have to learn how to pivot. You have to learn how to make it work. And I'm so grateful that I graduated with a degree in journalism than just a generic business degree. I'm so happy that I learned how to write. So then as I'm doing that, I'm about to graduate, and I sat down with one of our professors at the journalism school, and he wrote for Men's Health magazine, Ted Spiker. He's awesome. And I just sat down with him, and I'm like, I've only been in this school for a year and a half, and I have no idea what I want to do. I don't want to write for a newspaper because I think that's going to die pretty soon. But I would like to write for magazines, and I'm really into health and fitness. And that was when I was competing. So that's why I kind of linked the two together. And he was the one who really kind of helped gear me in the right direction. Mm-hmm. And then he introduced me to my mentor now, Adam Bornstein. And Adam has been integral in my career process. And I'm a firm believer in mentors. I am so grateful for both of those two men for really just being able to help guide me in the right direction. And so once I reached out to both of them, that's when I started to, I thought I was going to be a professional blogger, which kind of didn't really work out well. And then I thought I was also going to be a fitness model, while I was competing. That didn't work out well. But during these times when I was just trying to figure out what I wanted to do, I basically said yes to any opportunity that came my way. If it was writing for a blog, I wrote for that blog. If it was I ended up writing for Men's Fitness magazine eventually. So that was an amazing opportunity. I said yes to it. I only had a short period of time to turn around my first spread in a magazine, a national magazine, and I just figured it out and did it. Same thing with, there was a food company, one of those health food delivery services, an opportunity came and I said yes to it. And I know eventually, saying yes to everything isn't the best idea, but in the beginning, I would really recommend saying yes to whatever comes your way, whether you think you have the capacity to do it or not, because you really figure out what you're made of during those moments.
Once you say yes, you don't give yourself the option, but to figure it out.
No.
We talked about this today.
Mm-hmm.
I got invited to speak at a mastermind, and it was funny because I hadn't had an invitation where I was that nervous or that anxious. That's something I haven't really done much of in a long time. And it's because of this podcast and the things that I do now that this is the first kind of higher profile thing that I'll be able to do. And my initial response was fuck no. I was like, I don't have a speech prepared. And this mastermind happens every month, and I knew I was like, well, I'll give myself 2 months to figure it out, and I'll say that I'll do the one in 2 months. And I was like, well, fuck it, I'll figure it out. I'll find a way. Now I'm committed. Now that creates a situation where I don't have a choice but to figure it out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same thing. Shit, when I launched this podcast, it was like I put out a launch date, and I was like, well, I'll figure it out between now and then, because now everybody knows. Don't have a fucking choice. It's the best thing ever. It's
exactly.
like you just got to put yourself in situations to put a fire under your ass sometimes.
So true.
And you put it out there and just be transparent about where you are. People really appreciate that.
Yeah, people.
No one has it figured out like anybody else thinks they do. Like people if you look at like, oh, I don't have it figured out, I'm not ready yet. It's like, if you really want it, you'll figure this shit out.
Yeah. No one has it figured out.
Yeah.
I mean, life is this game, and you have to play it whichever way that you're handed it. Not everyone has the same tools, same buttons, same, whatever, like magic tricks in that video game that they can use.
Cheat codes.
Yeah, cheat codes. But like you play with the hand that you're dealt. And yeah, I would say that feeling uncomfortable has been the most integral part of my growth and in my career. And being around people who are a lot smarter than me, that has been really important, because I've learned quickly. And I've felt stupid a lot. Like I feel stupid a lot, but like it's a good thing, because then I'm like, okay, well, there's a lot of room to grow. Get it, girl. You still have a long way to go. Like you're never finished. And I think the moment that you start to feel comfortable in your position, whether it's your career or even a relationship, I mean, any point in time where you feel comfortable in it, I think that you're in the wrong. You should never feel comfortable. You should kind of feel slightly on edge all the time, like just a little bit,
all the time,
just a little bit, to where you're working hard at something.
Yeah.
I think that I think when I first started and I was learning what I don't want to do, when I said yes to things, I would do something for a period of time. I learned, okay, this isn't necessarily for me. I'm not necessarily made out to do this. And then I take the next opportunity, and I'd learn that as well. And I just kept doing that, but I would basically be adding all of these tools to my toolkit at the same time. Even though I didn't necessarily think it was right for me, okay, I learned something in that experience, and then I'm going on to the next thing, and I'm able to apply what I learned from that experience to the next experience.
Yeah, you're creating context around who you really are through experience. It's all you can do.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what you don't know. Mm-hmm. There's a big section in your life that's things you don't know, and you got to get in there and fucking figure that shit out.
And the more you know, the more you realize you do not know.
Well, that's funny. You were saying this earlier. I'm listening to a course on Audible, and it's about mindfulness. And he gave a statistic that it was funny that the people that are the most mindful are the people that think they're the least mindful. Like the more mindful you think you are, the least mindful you actually are. It's the same way. It's like the more you believe that you know, the less that you probably actually know. It's the people like Elon Musk who probably still thinks that guy still thinks he has so many things to figure out, and he's literally changing the world. It's because he has this kind of never ending desire to continue to innovate and continue to grow. And the same way with any kind of development of your personal life, whatever that area is, like there's so much value in putting yourself in a room where you are the weakest. Maybe it's intellectually, maybe it's physically if you want to get stronger, and learning how to adapt, because we're evolutionarily geared up to adapt to our surroundings. That's what we do. We're pack animals. We are built to be in a community. We're built to be in a tribe. And so if you surround yourself with people that are smarter, or if that's your goal, or people that are fitter, or people that are maybe more fulfilled in their experience, and there's something to learn there, you'll rise to the occasion. You don't have a choice. You'll figure that shit out. Like I think that's just one thing that we get, that especially as millennials, we miss out on. Like so many fucking things are figured out for us that we forget that we have to figure things out sometimes.
Oh yeah.
One of the things that I'm most grateful for in my entire life is the fact that like I essentially didn't really have like real parents. Like I had my grandparents who didn't really know. They weren't really keen on my generation. My parents were kind of not really around. So I spent like the majority of my childhood figuring things out. Like that was it. I was like, well, I better figure this out on my own, And it's definitely, it's a strength and a weakness in a certain way, just like everything else. But it's such a different context to view the world through. Of like, well, but you have this underlying confidence of, well, I'll figure it out. I can go crush a job interview and I'll figure it out.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think that, knowing how we both were raised, like I was raised completely different. And I think that there are times when I look back and I think, wow, I think I was enabled in a sense to where I wish I knew how to do that. And I look at some of the things that you do, like changing a tire. Not that necessarily my dad could have taught me how to change a tire. But, when my tire was flat, you fixed my tire, Like, damn, that's so cool. He fixed my tire. I never would have even thought I could do that.
Yeah.
Ever.
But it's all life skills. It's all just a thing, we all have our things, and it's just putting yourself in the place where you don't know what the fuck you're doing and letting yourself figure it out, just like a puzzle, and the neurons that fire together wire together. If you put yourself in environments where you have to be creative, your brain's going to get really good at wiring those pathways between your neurons to create creativity. For facilitate creativity, to be not redundant. But in the same thing, if you want to be in a position where you can actually feel and communicate how you want to express your emotions, then put yourself in that scenario, and it's going to be awkward and clunky, and you're going to hurt somebody's feelings or a lot of people's feelings over and over again until you figure it out. But it's with the intention to learn and grow and develop. And with that, we can kind of cognitively keep up with ourselves.
Yeah. And I hope that doesn't die with our generation, because I think that was more prominent in our parents' generation. And people look at millennials like we're selfish and we're entitled, and that we don't stick with anything for too long, and we give up easily, and we don't have really valuable skill sets. But I think if we can just readjust our mindset to anyone who's a millennial, to actually just truly focus on what you're good at and what you love doing, and then melding those two together, you have this gift to this world that you can bring. And I think that we all have such varied skill sets to where if we bring those together, we can really make a huge impact. And I know that sounds a little dreamer-esque, I guess, but I do truly believe that, because I think that our generation is getting stuck in corporate jobs and thinking that that's the way that it has to be because the money's coming in, and then you get married and you have babies, and that's what life is supposed to be like. And it's not like that anymore.
Well, not to say that that's that can be a fulfilling life, but you should choose that. You should have to actively choose that life. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people who chose that life and love that life fully. It's amazing. I think it's incredible. And that's necessary to keep the world spinning the way it is. But you get that you have a choice. I think that's the biggest thing that we forget sometimes, is that you get on autopilot and you just keep making a string of decisions, and you forget it's like life is happening to you versus you being in the driver's seat, or being holding the controller of the video game. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's crazy. And even if you want to work that corporate 9-to-5 job, but you do it with intention, and you know why you're there, and you know that what balance is, you don't lose yourself in it. Because I know guys who do sales, right? They're in sales, and they don't give a shit what they're selling, but they do love broing out with their sales team and accomplishing a goal. It's like a game. Mm-hmm. It's a game, and they make a lot of money, and they play a lot of golf, and they drink a lot of booze. They have a fucking great time. Yeah. And it's not about the widget that they're selling. It's about the fact they get to go to work with a bunch of other people that want to do the same kind of thing, and that scratches our tribal itch of accomplishment with a team, and mm-hmm. that's something that's it's not about anything else besides that. We can call it whatever you want, and good leaders facilitate that, and listen and create environments. That's one thing that we don't have a lot of times is adequate leadership. And something I try to step up and do for a lot of people is create being compassionate and empowering leadership. We have people like, I don't want to get fucked. We don't really want to go down the road, but the president of the United States.
Yeah, well, let's not get too far.
Yeah, let's not go too deep down that rabbit hole. But it's you see a lot of that too, and in creating an environment where you can be fulfilled in the corporate world. These are things that are possible and doable. And since our whole generation is a bunch of dreamers, anyways, we might as well make it happen and see if it's going to work.
That is true. I know. That's why this is kind of sort of off topic, but when I talk about cooking and food and how passionate I am about it. Like, it doesn't occur to me that some people they are not passionate about cooking. I think that everyone is, I'm like, this is the most fun I've ever had in my entire life. I love chopping vegetables, and like, look how beautiful this julienne carrot is. People don't care. I get and that's like with everything. Like, it doesn't matter what you're doing. It just matters that you fucking love what you're doing. Yeah. It doesn't matter. And then that passion will reverberate to everyone around you. And I think that that's really what I get at. I don't care if it's sales. I don't care if it's real estate. I don't care if you're a lawyer and you fucking love being a lawyer. Like, that's awesome. I just want everyone to just really love what they do. And then share that with the world.
Yeah. That's really all there is to it, right?
Yeah. And I read people's comments, and they say, you're killing it. You're killing it. And I never think I'm killing it. I never think that. I just think I'm doing what I love to do. And I hope all I want is the same for other people in return, is to really love every day what they do. And if you don't love something, have the courage to be able to make changes to where you can love your life. And I don't know why, it's so important to me.
Well, I think we all come from a place. I mean, we do. It's funny that we spend a lot of time together. Oh, we're dating, by the way. Podcast universe. If you guys didn't know that.
He's my boyfriend.
Hi. No, but it's that's the same thing with this show, with everything that we both do is two completely different approaches to helping people live more fulfilling lives. Right? Mm-hmm. I do it through ridiculous podcasts about psychedelics and sex and self-discovery. And you do it through food, but these are both really big parts that of life. Mm-hmm. It's what the time you spend in the kitchen, the time you spend, what the community you can create around food. It's just some people don't even understand that. Some people weren't raised with that. Like, you and I were lucky enough to be raised around, a dinner table in some mm-hmm. fashion, and we're brought together around food. And now we do that. I mean, even something as silly as having the best food at a potluck and being stoked about having pride once you bring a little community potluck. That
but think about how awesome. People are drinking beers and their babies are running around everywhere, and they're talking about how good that chicken pot pie is that Tom made.
Yeah.
They're like, damn, Tom, you killed the chicken pot pie. And then it's a conversation for at least 5 minutes. People just like to talk about it. Those little tiny wins in life. I'm like, yeah.
And you get to contribute to your people, and you get to bring something to them that's so fun, and it's not that hard. Mm-hmm. It's really not that hard to be good at that, or to be great at it. It takes a lot of skill, but to be adequate and be able to actually contribute in that way is awesome. Even if you're just making scrambled eggs and little hacks here and there.
And that's why I literally get so excited if someone makes a recipe that I posted and tags me in it. It is so fulfilling to see that. People who say, I made, popsicles for my kids today that you posted. I'm like, yes, that's awesome. It makes me it warms my heart. And I love sharing that. And because to me, food is this universal language around the world that doesn't require, there's no language barriers, no cultural barriers. It brings everybody together. It makes everybody happy. And you don't need to speak one word. It's just food, and you can share it with anyone in the entire world. If I go all the way over to India and decide to share a meal with someone, and even if we cannot communicate and with any actual words, we can sit and look at each other and understand that what we're both eating is shared, and we love it together.
It's like food and smile, or food and laughter.
Yeah,
the two things laughter, that are universally understood.
And chocolate. I think
chocolate's food, I think.
And wine. Yeah, no. But yeah, those that's what I love so much about food. I think it brings people together, and if we can, if anything, positive is coming in this world, because I think there's so much negativity in the news, and everybody just wants to share some Debbie Downer moment. And I just want to bring light back into the world. And I think that if we can focus on food, that's something that we all understand and that we all can agree upon, and we could all definitely consume, whether or not people like to cook or not.
Yeah, I think about this, from a mindfulness perspective. Like, turn your fucking TV off and be with yourself and create something. Create something that you're going to feed to your body. You literally are what you put in. Your cells are created by the shit you put in your mouth. So you can get in the kitchen, like, go out, create a little mission for yourself to make food. Like, spend time actually being present and making food. Like, something that will literally fuel your experience in life. And just be there and do it. It's an opportunity. Like, every cup of coffee, every scrambled egg, every dinner you make, every potluck you go to, every Thanksgiving is an opportunity to really be super present with what will nourish your existence on this planet. And that is not something to be overlooked. Like, we joke about ramen noodles and Hot Pockets, but a lot of people eat that stuff all the time, not because they have to, but because they're conditioned to, and it's a pattern in their mind, just like you were saying.
And I think people get scared away from healthy eating because
it's confusing as fuck.
It's confusing. Yeah, it is. It is confusing as fuck because people think everything is going to cause cancer now. I remember even my own siblings, they like macaroni and cheese, and they just like things that aren't that necessarily good for you. And luckily they have fantastic metabolism, so they get to look great. But I'm trying to teach them to really return back to food and real food. But they just think whatever I'm saying is like blah, 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 blah. What I'm eating causes cancer, blah, 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 blah. Like, everything gets so blurred. The language gets blurred, and people get so overwhelmed by all this massive amounts of information that they end up just continuing to eat and drink what they normally eat and drink because they don't want to think about it. And then that's frustrating to me because really our food does have the power to actually change our genetic expression and suppression, which I'm fascinated with nutrigenomics. I won't really dive deep into that.
That's another podcast.
Yeah. But we really can. We can really change the outcome of our lives and expression and suppression of our genes and family history of chronic disease and degenerative disease. And I think that if we can make that shift early on in life, in our generation and younger generations, then we can maybe actually start seeing shifts in disease rates and risks.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It starts with food.
It does start with food.
And so let's do this. What are you working on right now? Where can people find the work that you're putting together? Because what you do a great job of. I'm not just saying this because I have to. You do a great job of developing recipes and things that are actually really easy to follow. You've guided me through a handful of these things too, and I really had no idea what I was doing.
I know. I get so proud when you if you cut the onion the right way. I'm like, oh yay! I taught him that.
So you're working on a few projects right now with On It. Tell us a little bit more about those.
So I don't know how deep I can get into some of the projects. Well, but one of the things we have just started a YouTube channel with recipes, which is good, a learning experience for me because it's one thing to cook. It's one thing to talk to a camera, and it's another thing to do both at the same time. And that is difficult, let me tell you. Plus with personality and not sound like a robot. So yeah, I'm learning as I go through that, but I'm loving it. And the most rewarding part of it all is when people make things that I make and they like it and they receive it well, and I get to connect with people. So that's really awesome. I'm also working on potentially a subscription box.
Ooh.
So it's a box of snacks that we're putting together, and it'll be available to everyone. And
everyone in the whole United States.
Snacks that I've personally taste tested and approved. And there's no bullshit, shitty products in there that are healthy and taste horrible or are not healthy
but pretending to be,
which I hate those kind of people. How are you even in existence?
You sit on a throne of lies.
Why?
Snacks.
Yes.
You son of a bitch.
Why are you even a company? I just want to just shake.
Where are
them.
my abs? You're a fool. You lying asshole.
Liar.
Okay, cool.
So that's gonna be really awesome, and I'm excited about that. That's coming up, and then I'm just crunching away at building a menu for our food truck too. So that's exciting.
Awesome. That's great. And then you're always plugging away on your own personal, mostly Instagram, huh?
Yeah, I would say mostly concentrated on Instagram. I'm trying to start back up my blog, Live, Lang, and Prosper. But right now, everything is concentrated at Live Langdon on Instagram and also on Facebook and Pinterest and Twitter. Live Langdon on everything.
All Live Langdon on everything. And what's the Onnit YouTube channel that you were talking about?
It's all under the Onnit umbrella.
Okay, so it's just a channel on the Onnit.
Yeah, and
okay, cool.
and their videos that are categorized by recipes.
So what recipes do you have up right now on the Onnit YouTube?
Oh gosh, well, on the Onnit YouTube. So we just finished 3 different ways to upgrade your caffeine routine. So I have a matcha light latte on there. That's really awesome. It's a matcha chai latte. And I also have a horchata recipe, which is a cinnamon sweet rice milk blended with almond milk. And then I poured it over cold brew ice cubes.
I drink all of that.
Yeah.
That was in your fridge.
He has taste tested everything. And I think it's all good. And then a nice mocha that's about to come out. And then we have, what else we have going on there? I did a gluten-free flatbread with JP Sears. That was an interesting experience. Love JP. He's so great. And then, we're going to be coming up with some tailgating things, some easy dinners. We're going to be doing salads. I like to cook seasonally, so we're probably going to be utilizing some fresh fruits and vegetables that we get at the farmer's market. And it's going to be really fun. Yeah. After going to that culinary nutrition program in New York for 2 weeks, I'm a lot more creative with vegetables and plant-based foods now. So ask Connor. We have a lot of veggies in my refrigerator right now.
It's loaded up.
Yeah. And so
we did good.
I'm going to be cooking some fun stuff with that.
We're so hip at the farmers markets on Saturday.
Hip hop. Hip hop.
He gets the easy ones. Okay, we can quit quoting Billy Madison or Adam Sandler movies. Yeah.
Oh my God, Big Daddy.
Oh my God.
Jesus.
Jeez. All right. Well, I think it's about bedtime. What do you think?
I think it's bedtime.
This has been fun. Go check out Liv on Instagram. She's got all kinds of awesome things out there, and she also takes part in the Pleasure Monkey Life community on Facebook. So go request access to that. And maybe we'll get her on a Facebook Live doing a little cooking tutorial for us.
Yeah.
How do you think about that?
I would love that. That'd be so fun.
Well, you're committed now because it's out there on the internet. Everything on the internet is true.
Uh-oh.
All right, thanks for hanging out, babe.
Okay. Thanks, baby.
And that's this week's episode, guys. Thanks for tuning in. If you love the show, remember to head over to iTunes, subscribe, and leave a kind, loving 5-star review. It's very much appreciated. It helps the show go a long way. And if you want to be a part of random, crazy, insightful, and loving conversations just like this one, go to Facebook, search Pleasure Monkey Life, and request access to the Pleasure Monkey Life Facebook group. This is the place that I've created to help people share their authentic self. And, sometimes it's fun, sometimes it's heavy, but we always have a good time. I am live in there every week on Wednesdays, if not more. It's probably my favorite thing I do all week. I'm not going to lie, besides these podcasts, obviously. So head on over to Facebook, Pleasure Monkey Life. Hope to see you there, and have a fucking amazing rest of your day. Peace.